overreact. Mid-major Matt joining the show. Hi, Matt.
Hello. You want to overreact? The Eagles are never going to lose again. I mean, that we can overreact.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect you to come on with that kind of hot take. Hey, listen, there were people saying about that game yesterday. A lot of people were like, the Chiefs can't lose 3 in a row at home. The Eagles look really good, and the Chiefs definitely have flaws. It is hard to repeat. There's just not really a contender right now in the East.
No. I mean, I think the Commanders will be fine. I mean, here's the goal. Like, September is you just have to win in September. It doesn't have to look pretty because we know teams are not what they are until October and November. The Eagles last year were 2-2, and then they went 15-1 the rest of the season. So, September's all about just getting wins and doing the best you can. So they don't look great. The Eagles offense looks terrible. Jalen Hurts, hasn't thrown for a lot of yards. AJ Brown's not doing very much, but they're a defensive team right now, and they're a Saquon team, and that's how you win football early on.
A lot of people were high on the Washington Commanders going into this year. I certainly wasn't, because I'm not going to ride a sophomore quarterback essentially and say, oh yeah, 1 year. We learned enough from last year with CJ Stroud, not going over his passing yards prop season long. But I'm not saying it was a failure of a year for the Texans, but it wasn't as good of a year as the year prior. Washington, what is the level of panic over there?
I think it's fine. I don't think anybody's really panicking because Austin Eckler is part of a running back room that has 4 other options. And everybody
but now Jaden Daniels has a knee sprain?
Yeah, I still think he plays Sunday. I think because it was a Thursday injury, I think he's going to play. Now, my guess is, look, I would take the Commanders' money line right now. It's low enough that you could probably swallow the juice and just kind of take them. I still think they're going to win. Raiders, cross-country, short week off a Monday night game. I think there's some value. And guess what? If Jaden Daniels plays, that number is going to go back up to the 5.5, 6 that it originally was. So I think Washington still wins. I think you're getting a value on the money line right now because of everybody being scared that Jaden Daniels is not going to play.
Understood. Clearly the line's not going to move too much yet, but it is only -3 against a bad Raiders team. You'd expect it's probably -5.5 for sure if it's with Jaden Daniels.
By the way, Joe, I agree on the tush push. This is definitely the last year for the tush push. It's definitely going away, so I'm going to enjoy it while we have it. But everybody points to the Eagles being false starting, which they do, but the defense lines up offside too. And if you notice the one tush push, the Chiefs player almost punches his arm across the line before it's even snapped. That's illegal too. So if both sides are doing illegal things, what is it? It's offsetting penalties, and then they just replay the down.
I love that we're still going through the controversy. Oh my God, I can't speak. Controversy of the tush push. Buffalo 2-0. Cincy weirdly 2-0. Indianapolis 2-0. Chargers, they play tonight 1-0. Eagles 2-0. Green Bay 2-0. Tampa 1-0 playing tonight, and San Francisco 2-0. Any teams that surprised you so far this year, for good or for bad?
Well, obviously the Colts being 2-0. I mean, look, Daniel Jones was left for dead in New York with the Giants, and he, much like Saquon, is finding more success leaving the team. I don't think, look, remember last year, the Saints were 2-0. They looked like the greatest team ever, Carr and that defense, and then all of a sudden they lost a billion games the rest of the season. So the Colts could be last year's Saints, but they're off to a good start. And look, I actually think that Jake Browning won't be terrible. I feel like Cincinnati's going to lose more because, their defense is terrible. But, I think Jake Browning can run that offense competently and good enough that they can win some games because he's got 2 great wide receivers and he's got a decent running game. So I'm not going to downgrade the Bengals that much. I will, but I think Jake Browning of that group is going to be the guy who keeps things going a little bit. Plus, I love Tyrod Taylor. He's one of my favorite backups in the NFL. So I think he could actually play pretty well in the Jet system as well.
It does work. At least they have a quarterback that fits the system as opposed to someone having a mobile quarterback that then's a pocket passer. So I do like that it's Tyrod Taylor who's backing him up if he can't play next week. Let's get to this week still. We've got 2 games on the slate for tonight. What people may not know about you, Matt, is you don't have just one nickname. You've got 2. You are not just Mid-Major Matt. You are also the Kicker Whisperer. So let's dive into it. The Kicker Whisperer, and I have my settings all messed up. You've got 2 kicker props for tonight. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I like much like the mid majors and the group of five in college football. I feel like kicker props are the mid major props in the NFL because they deserve some love too. And for the longest time, it was Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals. That was like a godsend because he just kept kicking two because Baltimore could never score touchdowns. So I've got two tonight. It's funny because my 4 plays for tonight are kind of mirroring each other. I think Houston can move the ball on Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is one of those teams that gives up a lot of field goals, over 2 per game last year, around 2 per game last year. They gave up a bunch in week 1 to the kicker who's no longer with Atlanta right now. And so I think Houston, especially, remember, indoors, so you get a little bit more length from your kickers. So I like Fairbairn today over 1.5 field goals. Obviously, the market likes it a little bit because it's minus 136. And then I guess I'll go against the market on the other one because Daniel Carlson was another guy for the longest time that over 1.5 field goals was just a great prop bet. And I think once again, I think the Raiders with a competent quarterback in Geno Smith can move the ball, and they're indoors. He's got a lot of leg. I think he's the type of guy who can kick 40-something, 50-something yard field goals. And so I think the Raiders move the ball too, just not enough to score touchdowns. Give me the over 1.5 on Daniel Carlson. And look, if we hit Carlson and lose Fairbairn, then we're pretty close to even. So those are the two kicker whisperer props I like for tonight.
I absolutely love the kicker whisperer. How much do you only really look at it for prime time, or do you look at it on the Sunday slate?
No, I look for it in the Sunday slate. Yesterday, I had Graham Gano over 1.5 field goals. That hit in the first quarter because they settled for 2 field goals. He's been getting 5.5s. And, it's so funny because I sit there and I have this debate. I'm like, all right, look, do I take the over 5.5 and hope he makes 2 field goals, which then means I would hit the over 1.5, or do I just take the over 1.5 in the field goals, which is what I actually did. But like Graham Gano's, I think we're not going to see any more 5.5s with Graham Gano anymore. But if we do, like that Giants offense showed a bit of a pulse against Dallas. So yeah, I do look for it on Sundays. There's certain guys that I like more than others. I love McPherson for Cincinnati. You're looking for offenses that can move the ball, and you're looking for defenses that stiffen up in the red zone, because then you're going to settle for a lot of field goals and you need the game to be close. Now, I'm kind of mad Tennessee kicked one in the fourth quarter because I had the team total under 17.5 and their meaningless one gave them 19. But you're just trying to find good enough defenses that slow down offenses that can move the ball. So I think I'm 2-1 on that prop so far this year. So so far, so good.
You've got some other props for tonight as well. We'll stay with the NFL first before we dive into Major League Baseball. These are 2 receivers that people don't really know about. They're not like the household names of these teams. We're not talking to Lad McConkey or Mike Evans. You're getting in the weeds. So why Xavier Hutchinson over 1.5 receptions?
So I had losing record yesterday. I know, shame of us to admit these sort of things, but the two of the ones that I hit were 2 wide receivers who were on the field a lot in week 1 and just didn't see receptions. And it was Elik Ayomenor for Tennessee, who was awesome at Stanford. He beat our Syracuse team on Thursday Night Football. But he was awesome. He went over his 2.5, I think, in the first quarter, it felt like. And then the other one was Hunter Renfrow. And I'm going to use the same logic here for Xavier Hutchinson, who is the number 2 wide receiver. Now that Christian Kirk is injured, Xavier Hutchinson is the number 2. He played like almost 90% of the snaps last week. And this is a game where you could take more advantage of Tampa Bay through the air than on the ground. And so the books are looking at last week when Hutchinson only had 2 catches. I think he can go over this once again because I just think he's going to be out there so much that they're going to throw the ball to him. That was the logic I used for Renfrow and Ayomenor yesterday. I'm going to use it again for Hutchinson.
Trey Tucker as well. How much does this have to do with, I don't know, maybe like a Brock Bowers injury, but it looks like he's playing?
Yeah, same logic here. Trey Tucker, another guy who was on the field a ton for the Raiders, and I'm going to say, and he's a guy that they use to take the top off the defense. Indoors, Geno Smith's got a cannon for an arm. I could see him going over this in 1 reception. I think he can go long. He's the type of guy that can have like a 2 for 45 type of night. So, yeah, I'm taking the over on the yards. The rare time I don't take the receptions because I'm more of a receptions guy than a yards guy, but his number was 2.5. As I said, I feel like I'm more confident in his yards than his receptions because he's a 2 for 45 type of guy.
I'm worried about this game because Hunter Renfrow, Brock Bowers has props up, and we were not certain if he was going to play or not. So how much does that factor into your handicap of the Raiders Chargers?
Well, so I think he's going to play. I just don't know how effective he's going to be. And so, there might be some value on Michael Meyer props, especially because he's the backup and he's pretty good. Now, I don't know if a lot of the books are going to hang numbers for him, but I'm kind of guessing that Bowers is going to play and it's just going to be a little bit less. And maybe he's not as involved, and heaven forbid, maybe he's a decoy. So to me, if you're dying to take any Brock Bowers props, which I wouldn't suggest, I would potentially look at him as an under. He could be a decoy tonight, in which case he just runs a lot of routes, takes some people away from the wide receivers, and then just, puts up like a 2 catches for 15 yards type of night. So I wouldn't touch his props, but I would lean under potentially if you were, because I think he could be a decoy tonight.
And I'm sure those numbers will have that baked in a little bit to the lines because they know that he's a bit banged up. Any of the 4 teams tonight that you're not buying or that you think that we're not talking enough about?
So, look, I'm a Tampa Bay guy. I think Tampa Bay is a team that has a really good running defense. And look, Baker Mayfield is on quite the run. The last couple of years, he's been awesome, and he's got great wide receivers. I want to see Egbuka do it again after last week. He had a tremendous first week. He had the 2 touchdowns, and he's a very good wide receiver. But we see the volatility of rookies in this league, where one week they look awesome, next week they look like a rookie. So I'd like to see him do it again before I start going to chase his numbers and stuff like that. But I think that's going to be a fun game. And look, the Raiders are the type of team that I think are going to lose some people's survivor pools. Last week, the Patriots, you could have taken the Patriots potentially, and the Raiders went to New England and won that game. So I think the Raiders are going to lose some people some survivor pools when they hit the road, because people will fade them and they'll get some road victories this season.
I know we have Major League Baseball tonight, college football, also your bread and butter. We are entering another week of college football season. I know it's early in the week. Where is your eye going on the board for this upcoming weekend?
So this week is not, the spots were tremendous last week. There was a ton of spots. Not all of them hit, but, there were at least places where teams were lack of focus. We're now getting a lot less of them. And I'm already starting to put together the article for Friday for all the spots and stuff like that. There are some FBS games that we'll certainly take a look at because there's some value there. We hit a couple of those over the weekend. Rutgers was ruthless against Norfolk State. Cincinnati put up a ton of points. So, now that we're starting to get into conference play, there's not as much value in the look aheads or the sandwiches and stuff like that. But certainly we'll see what some teams do. Virginia Tech just fired their head coach. So did UCLA. There's always that 1 week bump potentially.
How do we handle those teams?
Well, so usually the first week afterwards, teams play a little bit better sometimes. Tech has a FCS school, so we'll see. It's going to be in front of a stadium that's kind of going to be, 3/4 empty. So I don't know how to necessarily handle that. I want to see what the number is before we give out any advice there. UCLA is on a bye. So you get extra time for UCLA to try and figure things out. They're at Northwestern on the 27th. If you believe in the bump and that it continues no matter when your first game is after the head coach, then you'll take UCLA there. I kind of like Northwestern. By the way, if you've seen the pictures of Northwestern's temporary stadium, it's like right next to the water. It's a gorgeous looking setting. It's just a, very small stadium, un-Big Ten like.
Well, that could be a little underwhelming, especially for the home team. Okay, Major League Baseball tonight. Ooh, you're going with Kyle Bradish over 15.5 outs. God bless you. Why?
Well, in 2 of his 3 starts, he went 7 innings and 6 innings. He went 4 innings.
On the road?
Well, yeah, but listen, it's the White Sox. The White Sox have made me lots of money this year. They are under machines. By the way, if we had asked people who has the most unders potentially, or one of the teams that has the most unders, no one would ever guess that the White Sox are 90 unders and 58 overs in K props. It's ridiculous. Nobody would have guessed that, but they are tremendous against the under here. And look, you look at some of the last couple of starts, Slade Ciccone, or however you say it, 5 2/3. Bybee went 9 innings. Adrian Hauser went 5 1/3. Zebby Matthews went 6 innings. Luis Gil went 5 1/3. So I'm taking a shot. We get 15.5 outs against the Pirates. He went 7 innings. I'm going to take that bet once again because there's no sort of pitch count, it seems, for Bradish this season.
It's kind of surprising for a player that's barely pitched all year. You would think that the Orioles would want to potentially reserve his arm, but I'm guessing they're letting him go for at least another start or two for a team that's out of the playoffs. Emmett Sheen under 2.5 earned runs tonight. They're getting your Phillies. They're in LA. How come you're fading your Phillies bats tonight?
Sheehan is awesome at home. 2.32 ERA and 6 starts at home. He's gone under this pretty much every start at home. Nobody has seen him before in this lineup. The long road trip, there's no rest time. There's no off day. So, we'll see. I mean, the Phillies still without Trey Turner, still without Alec Boehm. So their lineup is good. It's not as great. They clinched a playoff spot yesterday. They still need to keep playing because they want to get the 2 seed from the Dodgers. So they're still going to keep playing. But I like Sheehan. The bullpen's relatively fresh, so maybe they only let him go 5, which means 2 times through the order here. So I'm going with Sheehan here under 2.5. I wanted to potentially consider his outs, but he's young and the bullpen is fresh, as I said. So instead, I decided to just take advantage of him being really good at home. All right, he's really good the first and second time through the order. 216 batting average first time, 236 the second time. So I hope the Phillies are up like 2-0 by the time he leaves.
I'm looking at FanDuel right now, and it says that there's like a record breaker section. Cal Raleigh to break Aaron Judge's American League home run record of 63 plus is 25-1. Like, why are we posting this? Is that really, like, how attainable is this?
Because everybody, it's like when they posted the Aaron Judge hitting 400 bets and everything, that was, it's funny. I did put $1 on that bet because it was like 70 something to 1 on BetMGM. I put $1 on it because I figured if by some chance Judge gets hurt and his season's over and he's hitting over 400, then that bet wins. But of course, he's now no longer near 400, but I figured it was worth a shot.
Sports Guru Vegas says preview 2 NLCS championship for Phillies Dodgers. Do you buy that?
No, it's not, because the Phillies could play the Dodgers in I don't even know what they call the rounds nowadays. I guess the divisional series.
Yeah.
Right. The first series is the wild card series. Then it's the divisional series. Then it's then it's the league championship series. So yeah, they actually could play in the divisional series. I want the Dodgers. Like, I'm not scared of the Dodgers. I think the Phillies at their best can beat anybody in baseball. The problem is the Phillies at their worst could lose to the Rockies. So like, at their best, I'm not scared of anybody in Major League Baseball right now.
No, except I'm so sad that Zach Wheeler's not there, because when you guys were 10-1 with Wheeler, I thought it was a great spot to back the Phillies. It's a very interesting race in MLB. It's not getting enough love. There's not a true number 1 right now in Major League Baseball. Anyone could upset anybody, and Matt and I will definitely be covering the entire thing along the way. Moon Major Matt, thanks as always. Everyone make sure to check out his newsletter, which goes out Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays on thepropqueen.com. It's like $5. You could subscribe, get all his college football analysis as early as Wednesday throughout the week. Matt, good luck tonight.